With that, please allow me to introduce our esteemed presenters today. Helene Brazier-Mitouart, I'm probably butchering.
It's okay.
I apologize.
No worries, I'm used to it.
Okay, let me try it, and then would you say it? Helene Brazier-Mitouart.
Helene Brazier-Mitouart. It's French, it's okay.
Mitouart, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Dr. Brazier-Mitouart is an education manager at Weill Cornell Medicine in New York City. She is described by her peers as an enthusiastic and dedicated educator in research administration. In 2008, after 4 years of exciting and fruitful research in osteoclasts, which are bone-eating cells, she obtained her PhD in biology from the University of Montpellier II in France. In 2014, Helene completed a postdoctoral training dedicated to research on bone metastasis from breast cancer at Weill Cornell Medicine. During that postdoctoral training, she was awarded the prestigious 3-year research fellowship from the Department of Defense for her research. Her relentless experimental work contributed to 2 groundbreaking scientific publications in Nature Communication and in Nature Cell. Those of you that work with folks in that area know that that is very prestigious. Helene shared her passion for biology and scientific inquiry while teaching general biology and heredity classes to NYC college students for 2 years, and with middle school students by engaging them in fun, hands-on experimental biology programs. Helene is a versatile educator who also created a brand new educational program named E2RA, Education and Excellence for Research Administrators, for the community of research administrators at WCM in 2016. The E2RA course provides 50 hours of education and training on the administration of grants from pre-award to post-award management. Helene has been teaching and orchestrating the E2RA course for the past 5 years. Since the inception of this course, 160 research administrators have successfully graduated, positively impacting the WCM research administration community. Moreover, she has just recently launched a mentoring program for research administrators at WCM. That new program provides an inspiring group of mentors and mentees, a structured program for them to grow together better and more empowered. She is also delighted to present seminars that play a pivotal role in maintaining the U.S. community of research administrators connected through education, such as the RAD network and FRAC as well. And she and I communicate on a regular basis and talk about things related to research administration, professional development. And I'm very pleased for her to be here today. And joining her is Kamini Bishoo, and she is the Director of Finance at the Roux Institute, a proven seasoned financial controller with experience of progressive leadership responsibilities in business development and P&L experience, who manages and leads successful organizations through complex financial times, turnaround, and high growth periods. Expert qualifications in identifying and capturing opportunities to accelerate expansion and improve profit contributions. Her areas of expertise include strategic business planning, corporate finance and budgeting, and cost containment and profit growth, leadership development, and human capital planning, and develop budget and forecasting modules. She has a BA in accounting and philosophy from Lehman College City University and an MBA from NYU. And with that, I turn this over to our presenters today. Thank you so much for being here, and we really look forward to your session.
Hi,
Thank
good
you.
morning. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for the nice introduction. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Kamini. Nice to see
Good
you again.
morning. Good morning. Yes.
So our presentation today is about virtual communication and what impactful and meaningful virtual communication looks like. I hope you're going to learn things, you're going to enjoy the presentation. And we really have been trying with Kamini to develop that presentation in a way that we are going to interact with you. So as of now, I don't even know how many people are connected, about 200. So I really hope that even in that virtual setup where we basically can't see you, we are going to have a meaningful interaction. So let's get started, Kamini.
Yes. Good morning.
All right.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, this is your slide.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here. We will start communication, especially with the current situation with COVID and the changes of how we conduct business. So we will start a communication with a poll, and our poll is, what is communication versus good communication versus not so good communication? And we ask ourselves, we're asking you, what do you think good communication is? And if you could take it a minute to answer and give us your feedback on what you think is good communication would be fantastic.
All right. So we are collecting. Thank you very much for your participation. I see about 90 people have been answering the polls. Thank you. Thank you for giving us some feedback on that upfront. What do you think are good communication practices? So again, in order to be able to submit, guys, you need to select an answer for all of the questions. All right, this is a little technical thing going on here. It's very easy. You just select really your answer to question 1, and then you do not even read question 2. You just select an answer to question 2, one answer to question 3, one answer to question 4, and one answer to question 5, and then you submit. Exactly, randomly you answer. So we will only look, and we will do that for all of the polls that are going to come up. All right. All right. I know it requires already some kind of like focus. What do I have to do? It's only 9 a.m. man.
I know. But, it's okay. This is all part of what we are learning about good communication and the way we're conducting business at this particular time, and the issues that can come up and how you handle the issues and how you communicate the issues. It's not about getting upset, because things like this will happen, and we are, the community is very flexible. So this is a perfect example of how, virtual communication, things may or may not work. And it's all about keeping it cool, being focused, being present, and that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think
and
at this point,
I guess point of humor, like just keep it like, that's it. It's out of our control. So
there are things we can control and things we cannot control. And at this point, I think we could end the poll at this point.
Yes, I'm going to end the poll. Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, because 2 minutes, 30 seconds. All right. Yeah. So good communication practices. So we basically have almost 95% of the people said listening, then speaking. Perfect. I love that. And making clear and concise points also got about 80% of your votes. So that's really cool. That's perfect, because I think all of the other answers were kind of like, not so good practices. So it gives us a good sense of like, we are kind of like on the same page on like grounding basis to start our presentation now.
Can we show the results? Because
I'm sorry, I did not. Here we go. Here we go. Now we can jump now into our presentation. So listening, then speaking, and making clear and concise points are definitely very important. Awesome. So let's move to.
Okay,
go ahead, my dear.
The poll off. Okay, so virtual communication and in-person communication versus virtual communication, and this picture here completely tells you a whole lot. The way we used to conduct business before, and currently due to COVID, how things are happening, and this may or may not remain the same going forward after we find a the solution to this virus that is going on. So when you're a virtual in person, there's a little bit more interaction. You're maybe laughing. At the virtual side of business, there's so many things happening. You're in your home. You may not have the space. You may not have planned out. You have children and all of that. So there's a completely different way of communicating. So this picture here, just keep that in mind as you're communicating virtually, whether with video or without video. We'll move on to the next slide, and we'll try to highlight a few things that you must keep in mind when you're communicating. Focus on virtual communication, and virtual communication could come in these forms: in written communication, verbal communication, body language, facial expression. What is said and written is very important. What is heard or read is important. The medium you use is very, it's a choice that could impact your communication, and the audience you're trying to send the message to, and how people interpret the vibe of that meeting. What are you conveying overall in your communication? So keep that in mind as we go through the presentation today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kamini. So,
and now we will talk about, and this slide here gives you, we try to make it, light and fluffy. Virtual communication tool. What are some of your tools that we are communicating today? And we all have different mediums and selection, and it depends on the type of communication you're doing. Email, instant messages, Slack, Team, phone call on professional line, virtual meeting, audio, without audio, text messages, phone call, personal phone call. So these are all of the things when you're communicating virtually, you have to keep in mind ahead of time what your audience. Always think about your audience as you're communicating virtually during this whole conversion from in-person to off-site operation. So just to give you a little overview there. And then we'll look at how you choose your medium of communication, your tools of communication. And that is very important, because controlling communication is a powerful way, a powerful tool that you can have to enhance what you're saying. What are you conveying to your audience? How are you engaging with your audience? How important is that communication to you, and how urgent it is? Because if you keep certain things in mind when you're communicating, whether it's written, whether it's on a phone call, whether it's from a Skype meeting, virtual meeting, these are some really important points you have to keep in front of you as you're communicating.
mm-hmm.
And now I'll hand this over to Helene.
Yes, hi. So as Kamini was saying, communication has many aspects, and we are kind of trying to peel through the different layers of that. One aspect of your communication in a virtual environment is your verbal communication, which is basically how you're going to be speaking. Either it was in person before, and now it's going to be mostly over the phone or on virtual platform like on audio through Zoom, for example, but also on camera. So important factors that you can control are going to be your words. Inevitably, it's very important. Your intonation, are you going to use like this monotonous rhythm, or are you going to speak in a very inspiring way? That is something you can control. Your speech rhythm is very important. Are you going through your message in a very fast pace, or are you making some pause so that people can actually have a little bit of time to breathe, digest what you've been saying? It's very important to enhance the rhythm of your communication. The way you are also integrating people's opinion is very, very important. Are you offering space to people to give feedback? Are you offering space to give for them to share with the group what they are thinking? And how are you acknowledging their opinions and potentially the differences that they have in their opinion? Maybe they do not agree with you. How do you react to that? That is part of your verbal communication, and that will be very critical in the way you are communicating with people and creating that dynamic of communication. So these are like factors that you can control and maybe not every little second of your communication, but trying in general to think about all of this aspect. One other thing that is inevitably crucial in that current virtual communication, especially on camera, is what is your body language and your facial expression. So as you can see on this picture, a lot of things can be said without even saying one word. So you can see some kind of form of like, oh, what are you saying is disgusting, or like some people can feel way more happy. It can feel like, what? Like this kind of form of surprise, of form of like, oh yeah, that's going to be so bad. All of these things are going to be shared with your audience without any word. Okay, so before, when we were more in person interaction, the whole body, your whole body was saying something about your reaction to what was happening as communication was going in the room, the way you were sitting, the way your hands were moving, the way your feet maybe were kind of like jiggling around. Now on camera, everything is focused on your head, your shoulder, and potentially your arms and hands. They are saying a story. They are telling a story to people. How you move your eyes, your eyebrows, how you put your glasses on top, like, oh, like you are putting your hand on your face. All of that is going to say something. So your facial expression will indicate how you feel about what you are saying, but how you feel also regarding what people are saying to you. What are you listening to? What is your reaction? And that adds to your verbal communication to either motivate people or discourage them. And so many other things can happen from that facial expression. So you really want to be careful about that body language and facial expression. And because now we are so focused, there's nothing to look at except our face and our shoulders. It does impact very much how people are going to receive your message and hear something from you. So we're going to move into these two additional tools that are going to be about which communication medium do you want to choose for specific message. So this is another thing that is very important. It's like, now that you kind of like pay attention to some of these criteria, now it's about choosing the correct communication medium. So as Kamini was saying earlier in the presentation, there are multiple communication medium you could be using. So things must be chosen carefully because not everything can be used for everything. So we are going to launch two polls. So Kamini, do you want to introduce the poll number 2?
Yes.
And then I'll come back to the technical thing about the questions and the answers.
Absolutely. So on poll number 2, think about this. You are addressing a budget deficit in your research project, and you are requesting the director of your department to approve the use of departmental fund. And I'm sure many of you have addressed this to, so look at the answers and tell me how you would address this as a research administrator.
So coming back to the technical aspect of the poll, so for people who have just joined, please, on the first question, that was the question we did before, so just choose one answer randomly and then really read the poll number 2, you are addressing a budget deficit, and choose intentionally which kind of medium, and you can choose multiple one, okay? It's not limited, it's a multiple choice option. And then for question 3, 4, and 5, please choose one answer without reading the question, just like randomly. We really focus on poll number 2. Thank you very much. So again, it's a budget deficit. It's a delicate situation here. You need to ask for permission to follow up in a specific way. So which medium would you use? All right, guys, choose your answers here. Remember, you need to select randomly one answer for question 1, 3. Well, actually, we could maybe do poll number 3 at the same time, but maybe it's too late now.
Yep. Well, yeah, let's end the poll and let's show the results, please.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to end the poll. And all right. And I'm sharing the results with everyone. So let's look at poll number 2. So the poll number 2, people would be addressing the budget deficit. Mostly 65% chose emails, Kamini.
Yes, and I'm agreeing with that a little. I'm agreeing with that because it is something that needs to be in a written format. You have to give again. I will we're looking at this from a big perspective. Money is involved, decision making is involved, and you don't want to make an assumption that that will be approved. Using an email followed by a phone call or a virtual message will be a great option to go. So
yeah, I agree. Definitely the instant messaging is not going to be something to be used in that situation. Definitely. So let's look at now the poll number 3. I'm going to relaunch the poll. The situation here is that you need to discuss the milestone of a project with your colleagues you are collaborating with to complete a quarterly report due to the sponsor. So I'm going to launch again the poll, and I ask you to really intentionally select your answer to the poll number 3. So just randomly select an answer for 1 and 2. And then for number 3, you can select multiple options. And then select randomly answers to the poll number 4 and 5. Thank you very much, everyone, for bearing with us with this polling thing. So which medium would you be using for that milestone? I mean, for the preparation of that report? All right, so thank you very much for everyone who is participating. I'm going to wait to hit 100 participants, and then I'll end the poll. All right, here we go. I'm ending the poll, and I'm sharing the results with everyone. So people have been choosing mostly for that poll number 3, virtual meeting, joining camera on. So would you have done that, Kamini?
And milestones are I would do an email follow up by a virtual. My recommendation would be an email, just a quick summarization, support by the data, or when you're scheduling the virtual meeting, you include the documentation and so that people are prepared, understanding what the communication is all about.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you also. Approaching that with an email, at least to share the important document that are going to need to be discussed during the meeting, is definitely essential. Or doing the meeting virtually right away on camera, but you need to make sure that people have the same data at the beginning of the meeting, and that everybody has kind of a sense of what is in these documents. So I think definitely an email would be appropriate as a first step, and then a virtual camera meeting. And I feel like here we are kind of highlighting one thing, is like, it's not something that we haven't put the word anywhere, I think, in the presentation, but that communication is very dynamic. So something can be the first stage of a project should be addressed more through an email. Then it's going to move to a meeting on camera. Then it's going to move to emails again. And then maybe there will be some instant messaging going on. So that dynamism is very important, because everything changes all the time. And I think this is something that is very important, because all of the consideration we've been bringing to your attention will change as we go along on a project. So it makes it very interesting to be attentive to all of that. All right. Oh, so sorry, go ahead, Kamini.
No, and as you can see, as you're doing this, you're keeping in mind, which brings us to the next slide, how to choose your medium to communicate. Choosing your the right media increase your chances for response from your audience. So the first thing you have to do, and again, we come back to the fact of your audience: who, what, where, and when. If you answer those questions when you're thinking of communication, whether email, phone call, or video chat, or instant messaging, if you keep those who, what, where, and when, you will be able to know what the medium should be to communicate your message. What people have previously agreed upon. Always think about what people have agreed, summarize things, how formal or informal you're making that message, what level of communication and who you're communicating with, complexity of the information, and time pressure to address the issue. So when you look at these things, you have to compose yourself, compose a message, and communicating in that manner. If you follow these steps, it will make things easier, because you're answering all of the question yourself before reaching out and setting an alarm on.
Yeah. So thank you, Kamini, for this information. Brenda Jackson, thank you. You have been posting one question in the chat box.
Yeah.
So Brenda is asking about the guidelines or suggestion for the length of emails. I think I can answer first, and then you can bring some additional information, Kamini. I think that emails should be, I mean, we'll come back to that anyway, but they have to be clear, but they also need to be concise. And I feel like when it becomes too lengthy, of too many explanation, I think then that would be kind of like an indication of like maybe you want to move towards a virtual meeting with camera so you can explain things. Because I feel like explaining, let's say, complicated information that are on an Excel sheet can be just daunting to read, very complicated to understand. So maybe in that case, I would say try to keep emails concise, and if the explanation needs to be provided, then choose maybe another format. What is your input on that, Kamini?
I agree with you. The one thing of the biggest pet peeve that most people have is that when you have a chain email going on and 27 people are on it, they're responding, and the last person that touched that email should have a brief summary of all of what's happening into a short, couple bullet points. So the next reader that you're asking action on understand, who need to be involved, what need to be involved, how important this is. And if you don't do that and you continue to run that chain, you're going to be stuck in the middle and you're going to get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
The requester and the requestee, it becomes a big ball of revolving door of the issues. So
Mm-hmm.
keep that in mind when you are communicating via email or IMing, which is now the most popular thing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely true. So hold on.
So on this one here, how to prepare for an impactful video meeting. One of the big one thing I always focus on: be present and focus. If you are having a video meeting, whether you are the presenter or you are an attendee, be present, be focused, be ready. Virtual and be real professional when you're conducting it. Be in a setting, and I know that it's complex at this time because of how quickly we have moved from in office to virtual. So our atmosphere, even if it's a small space for that time, make it professional. Test your equipment. We had that problem this morning, and that's okay. But you have to be able to think on your feet as you go.
Sorry.
That's okay. Address professionally. It's important for that. Have an agenda. Keep your expression, body language, facial, and interaction on that meeting. Be present and focus. And now, if we look at when you do all of these things, the next slide would, what could happen when you are present and focused in a meeting, in a virtual platform at this particular time.
Mm-hmm.
Virtual, take advantage of a video, because feeling you're going to feel in power, and it is and less vulnerable. And the reason for that is that when you're in a in-person meeting, everybody's seeing each other interact. When you are in a virtual meeting, we are at the same level. You're sitting next to your boss. You're sitting next to your highly powerful scientist. So use the camera to your advantage. Everybody is important when you are in a virtual meeting. No, there is no desk. Use a text box to ask questions. It's less intimidating. Your screen, is protecting you from being, fearful of asking questions. You are never sitting next to the big guy. Everybody's sitting next to the big guy. So take that out of the stigma when you're having, take the stigma out of a when you're having a video conference or a meeting. It's important to not get intimidated about it.
Yeah, definitely. And really take advantage of that as much as possible. So another thing that we really would like to share with you is this idea that when you are with the video, there are other ways of even taking more advantage of that. So you really want to convey focus when you are on a meeting, energy and professional dedication. So one thing that is definitely a great advantage compared to like our previous in-person meeting is like, when you are on camera, you can see yourself. You can see yourself in that tiny little box, and you can see what you're projecting. You can see how you look like, which usually we couldn't have access to before. So it can give you a way to like, what are you projecting to others? Are you sending the right message with your body? Do you look tired? Do you look fully present, energized, and clearly distracted? Like, let's say when someone is like not looking at the camera and doing something else, or when they are just like this, it looks like they are doing something else. So correct yourself as you see something off on that camera. Okay, when you see that little tiny you and you're like, oh, wow, if it was someone else, how would I feel? Hold on, because so I am getting distracted because also of these technical things, because I have access to so many information right now, to so much information. So someone is actually chatting and say, this awareness is exhausting. I totally agree with that, because it's like on a constant basis, you see yourself. And at some point, let's be honest, at some point, you're going to feel tired, because maybe the meeting is at 4 p.m. and you have been already working since 6, and you're like, oh my God, I'm tired. And then you catch yourself and you're like, oh God, I see myself. I see that people can see that I'm tired. Boom. And all the time you're like correcting yourself. Yes, it's exhausting. I agree. But it can be so powerful, because it also gives you information like what people see from you. So do you look really not here, not paying attention, doing other things? Or are you here, completely involved in the meeting, very interested, very focused? And that will come back to that, because it gives very different vibe to the rest of the communication. So Kamini, do you want to jump back in for like what is state of written?
Exactly. So now we're coming back, we give you, a quick summary and a poll. It shows you different mediums and audience. So let's talk about now what is said and or written, the importance of your message. What do you do? What do you want to say? Summarize, again, coming back to summarize of your message and convey it to your audience. Audience is very important. Bring that, prioritize your items in importance. Have a clear action plan. Don't have a meeting without having a clear action plan, who, where, and how. Set clear expectation, a realistic deliverable, because many times people will give a deadline that is not realistic for what is needed, collecting information, data. Follow up on status, on to-dos. Many people do not do that, and give an update on that. Do what who do you want your message to be, the high priority of your message. The other thing is, sorry, I got a little distracted. How do you convey the importance of your message, your needs, your wants, without overstepping, yourself? Because sometimes you can go over the top and not follow the protocol. So you should use strategy of authorization or authority. So the next one is, let's say, and everybody has done this. I have done this, and I caught myself. So what is said and or written is important to you. Continue. Reread all email messages and before releasing it, even IMs. A little technique that I do is I type my IM and a Word, I always open it to make sure I'm, keeping, tab of what's happening. Check your tone. Tone is very important. Typos and grammars, that sometimes, because of how the platform you use, may be different. But if you're sending an email, do check your grammars, and there are so many tools to do that. Check the receptor. Don't include somebody that shouldn't be there. Check that very important. And make sure that you are, attachment. If you say attached, make sure you put your attached there if you intend. Because many times I have done that, didn't send it, but you can always recall your message back very quickly if you notice that. Read for effectiveness. Don't send an email just to be in the loop or be visible in your organization. Yeah. No one likes that.
Yeah, definitely true. I'm checking the chat box.
Okay.
So the best way so Tammy is asking, thank you, Tammy, for your questions. what's the best way to check your tone? I definitely, I think this is a difficult question to answer, because checking your tone, and I think we will address that a little bit further in down the presentation.
Yes.
So we'll come back to that because there are
Yes.
many factors that are affecting that.
Exactly.
And then last thing about the CC, Kamini.
Yes. Oh, to CC or not to CC? This is the question. So when you are escalating, and this can go both positive or negatively, when you're dealing with something that needs action, ask yourself, would I want to be, would I like someone CCing their boss on something? And if it's an important mess, if ask yourself how someone will receive that. Put yourself in that person's position. And are you CCing someone to, just to get a response of the other person? Are you doing something asking permission? This is where it's a very tricky situation. If you're trying to get information, the person is not responding, you may want to say, I will include this person maybe, or not include it, because the person who is going to be in that email chain will sometimes react positively or negatively, and you have to be prepared for that. So know when to or not to. And blank copy is absolutely, you must think twice about it. I had many situations where people would say, please blank copy me. But when I would blank copy, it backfired. So I would say blank copy someone to inform them once a solution has come up. If a solution is not coming up, to inform that person, to say, or your boss, to say, look, I'm having this issue. I need you to be aware of it. I am working on it. So you have to know why you're BCC or CCing someone. If you're trying to tell on someone, that's unacceptable. And you have to be prepared for the consequences for that.
Yeah, definitely true. Definitely be very careful about that. So, so this is just a quick summary here of keep in mind when you are drafting, when you're writing your emails and your communication. So keep in mind the 5C. So be clear, concise, complete, culture, and correct. And always, as Kamini has emphasized that many times, utilize your 5W. Always include information that are relating who, what, when, where, and why. Really, these are the basics of your any kind of written or verbal communication. And you have a couple of here tips, but we'll keep. I think these are kind of self-explanatory, and considering that we are getting closer to the end and we have a lot of things. Yeah, I think we're getting into this rush time. So I think one thing that is very, very important that we've been discussing a lot with Kamini is how do you want people to feel about the message you're sending now that you have drafting it very well and Do you want them to feel appreciated and valued? Do you want them to feel blamed because they made an error? Do you want them to feel praised for a great success? Do you just need a report from them? Do you want them to feel included in the next step? So you really want to try to convey appreciation, positive energy, and professional inclusion and teamwork in all of your message. And I feel it's very important that if we come back to how you behave on your camera, this do you send this message to the people that you're not really here? Well, they're going to feel bad. They're going to feel like their presence, their contribution is not really acknowledged. They're wasting their time and they're losing interest in the communication because they clearly see that you are not really interested. On the contrary, if you are really present, listening, interested, and focused, they will receive that and they will feel good. They will feel like their presence and their work is recognized. They will feel like it's an efficient use of their time to be in that part of that meeting, and they will feel an increased interest for participating to the next step and maybe to another project. So you're going to have so many positive effects or negative on the short term, but also I think we need to mention it on the long term, it's definitely going to have some effect as well. So at the end of one communication, what is the impression that your audience is left with? Do they feel upset, angry, confused, discouraged, just paper pusher? They feel like, it's just a waste of time, I'm not productive at all? Or do they feel, on the contrary, valued, supported, encouraged, appreciated, energized, and worthy? That sensation that anyone is feeling at the end of a communication is going to be so positively influencing the next step of your communication with them and on the long term as well. It's essential to try to always get to that yellow area of like positive energy and positive sensation that people, because like you have all been in a meeting where you felt on that side, you felt like, oh my God, what am I doing here? These people don't even listen to me. And do you feel like you want to talk with these people again and communicate and work? No. But if you are on that side, it's definitely good for you in the future. So one thing that is definitely important is like the energy vibe of your message is crucial to, is going to influence tremendously your way of communicating. When it's all about congratulation, saying like great work, well done, it's easy to draft communication and to send communication to people about that. I will encourage you when you are in this kind of situation, just saying congratulations is definitely great, but try to see if you can put something else in the message. Can you acknowledge the great participation of everybody on the project that led to that, you know, congratulations, we got that grant in. Try to use that as an opportunity to also celebrate the wins of everyone. When you are in a situation, on the contrary, where it's like, uh-oh, we made a mistake, uh-oh, we are in an urgent situation, or we have a big problem, definitely that would be a situation where just by itself, the message you have to share is already kind of sticky. It's kind of like the hot potato. So how can you, in that situation, kind of like frame it in a more positive way? It's not always easy, but it's definitely something you want to think about to smooth the communication and make it more, the person you're reaching out more responsive to that. So this is where we're coming with our poll number 4, which is, how do you wrap, what is the story that you're telling people, whatever message you have, and especially when you have a message that is more on the negative side, how do you wrap it so that you make people more prone to actually be willing to participate to the project with you? So we have set up that 4 different ways of saying the same thing. And so I'm going to launch the poll here. So you can actually answer to the poll number 4. So same thing as earlier, guys. You need to answer all of the questions, but I'm asking you, please just randomly select answer for question 1, 2, and 3, and
Because
really
you're
look.
pressing for time.
Yes, yes, yes. And then answer just the poll number 4. So the poll number 4, so I'm relaunching. Okay, I'm relaunching. So please really answer randomly 1, 2, 3, and then for the poll number 4. These are the 4 options. Because you always manage project very well, we would need your help on that extremely important project. It's due in 1 week, unfortunately. Option 2, you've been assigned a new project, it's due in 1 week, please start working on it now. Option 3, we need your support and expertise on that to help us on that sensitive project. We appreciate your help. We know you are really busy. Option 4, my team is overwhelmed. We need someone who can help. Your manager said you're not busy and would be available immediately for that complicated project due in 1 week. In which kind of communication would you receive, and would you feel like I'm more prone to actually be part of that project and help them? So poll number 4, we've got almost 100 answers. Please select your answer. So really significantly for question 4, but the rest randomly. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll, and okay, so I'm ending the poll. I'm sharing the results with everyone. So if we look at that poll number 4, which message would you make? Would you feel more prone to work on the project? So if you receive message 3, you definitely feel more prone, because it has been said in a way that we make the person feel more the expert, and then in a more sensitive way, you've been reaching out to that person. So definitely, that was what I was expecting with Kamini, that this question. So that is a good one. This one is also pretty nice, I feel like, because you always manage projects so well, we would need your help on that project. That also makes the person feel like, you know, you've not been reaching to that person randomly. It's really has a specific meaning. All right, so moving on. Okay, so it's 52. All right, so keep in mind that your message also say things about your capacity to find the answer to a specific problem before you reach out to your boss. Just make sure you always check your emails for answers, that you check online. Can you find the answer on your own? Did you check the website of your institution? And did you check with some colleagues that you trust very well? Maybe they can already help you. Don't always jump into like emailing 20 people to get an answer to something, because it tells something about your resourcefulness. Inevitably, the energy vibe between the people communicating is going to affect how you approach any kind of communication. If previous tension exists, like in that case, definitely the energy vibe is tense, the communication will have to be drafted and reread and kind of like polished to the detail of any word. Versus, if you feel like there's already a good energy vibe between people, it's going to be a little bit more like you can just communicate a little bit lighter with them and feel like you're not walking on eggs. So definitely that will affect your way of communicating and even the medium you're going to use to communicate. We can definitely appreciate that there's a great diversity of people that you research administrators you are going to communicate with. There is a list here. We can't go through all of them, but people can belong to your team, to your office, they can belong to your department, they can be leadership in your department, they can be people from outside, they can be patients or participants for clinical studies, they can be faculty, they can be colleagues from another institution, or even from a sponsor, or from a biopharma company, or even a donors. So all of these different kind of audience is definitely going to make you approach your communication very differently, because they are very diverse. And they all have, and maybe, Kamini, if you want to jump back here about your relationship.
Absolutely. The energy vibe between people communicating. So when you're looking at how is your relationship with the people you're communicating? On the previous slides, you see the people rolling their eye, not connecting very well. The authority, decision maker, are you the manager or the colleague? The quality of previous interaction. So these things, when you're communicating the vibe, whether verbal, written, you have to take into consideration. But also you need to factor adaptability of people and the different way people are adapting to the change that is happening with COVID-19. Show empathy, but be conscious about use of empathy, because you don't want to use that empathy card all the time, because it will not get you, we're still professional, we still have to be kind and understand that this is change, but empathy and using it effectively is very, very important. Be conscious of that. And the next next slide, we'll have to look at, we're moving on to the next slide, professional expectations since COVID. And this is when first started, everybody probably went through one or the other, or continue to have that. And working some circumstances is very different from today compared to be professional at all time. Work expectation is the same. Because it's just changed from in-person to out-person. You must produce it and contribute to the department or the job that you were given. So be very, very careful of that, regardless you're virtual or not. Helen? And now, what is heard and read? Sometimes you are saying something, and what you intend to say or what you intend to convey is not exactly what is being received. So if we move on to the next slide, we will look at what is heard and read. Beware that your audience will always select what is relevant to their need. And this is a human nature thing. So again, we come back to who is the audience, what is the objective and outcome, what is the relevant information to them, and what is being asked of them to do. If you don't define these things in advance and knowing these things, you're not going to have the result that you need. Because let's be honest, we all have done this in some way or the other, where we only take the pieces that is relevant and we don't hear anything else, and important information can be mixed. Now
I just want to add here that specific area of relevance that you have, that people are going to focus, you need to emphasize it as much as possible. You can have control over that and try to highlight what are your common objective, so that people, even though they're not going to look at the whole thing you just said, emphasize that it's going to create a connection with people.
Exactly. And then the other slide, you have to be, we're in a world where this is addressed all the time. We're not going to touch a lot. We are not experts on this, but diversity and cultural awareness, be aware of that. Be inclusive, be open-minded, and be flexible, because we're all learning together. We're all communicating in different manner. So this is a learning point in all of our lives. So be conscious of diversity and cultural awareness. We are not expert on this, but we have a website and the link in the bottom. You can go and seek additional information. Okay.
Over communication, it's also something highlighted here in that little cartoon. You have 7 phone messages telling you to check your email and 13 emails telling you to answer your phone. So when you're in a situation of over communication, you know this is the enemy of effective communication. It does create tension and it forces the person to respond, and they're not going to feel any freedom here. So it does try to minimize as much as possible redundant communication, and that is like really emergency situation and like trying, absolutely, but try to allow some time and give some time to people for them to provide a meaningful response to your request. So try to stay away from that over communication. It's not going to work very well.
And now we move on to the technique to de-escalate tension within communication. Is if it happened, okay? If possible, do not respond in a heated moment. And we all have had this in them, and that's again where the oopski come in. Do not assume things. Ask. If you're not clear or sure, please ask. Try to discuss instead of using email. Prefer a video meeting. And if possible, try to integrate a third party. If there is tension within a project, a team, use your human nature skills, but don't use the bad ones. Always think about how you want to be communicating to, how you want someone communicating to yourself, and that will give you the answer to move forward.
Yeah, definitely.
And if all fails, you must apologize. It's nothing wrong in apologizing when you have error, whether it's your error or someone else's. If you're the boss, it's always, important to look back and say, what have I done with that team to create this situation? How can I de-escalate? Apologize, regroup, and discuss. We have a website there, a link that you can check for more information if needed.
Yeah. So all of that layers that we kind of went through regarding communication, of course, we all want effective communication. We want it to be impactful. So in the short term, we want grants to be submitted. We want reports to be submitted to the sponsor. We want the project to be moving. But in the long term, as I kind of mentioned earlier, we want to basically make sure that in the future, we will initiate and complete new projects with the people we are communicating. We want to develop trust and respect with people, and we want to strengthen our connection with people and build healthy relationships. This is really ultimately what we all try to do with our communication, in addition to make things move forward. And we want to thrive at our work, and of course, keeping it in that current situation. So your effective communication will contribute to that. And of course, it will also build your reputation and your integrity. So it's really, having effective communication is definitely going to be a big positive aspect of you in the short term and in the long term. So to conclude on that communication, so Kamini?
Yeah. To conclude, to improve your communication, this is a quick little thing to keep in mind. It's the HAIL method communication. I don't know if you have seen it. It's on LinkedIn. It's be honest. Honesty is very important. Be clear and straightforward. Authenticity. Be yourself. Integrity. Be your word. And love, or however you want to put the last one. But wish people well. Wish your team well. Wish your colleague well. It will help when you put all of these things together when you're communicating, because we are not in a normal situation. We have to be sensitive, and integrity and honesty, those are very, very critical things.
Yeah, it's always important to keep that in mind anytime you are working with anyone in a virtual setup, even more. So we wanted to finish that presentation. I know we are slightly over time, but we really want to make the point. I hope you can all stick around a little bit. We want you to see that, of course, you have all of these tips and all of these criteria that you can control or that at least you can be aware of. But beyond that, try to be a strategical communicator. Celebrate the wins of your team by communicating the great work of your team members. Share the credits, okay? And as I mentioned at some point, let's say a grant has been submitted on time and it was a huge one. Just celebrate the win of everyone that has been participating. Even if you're not the manager, just say, oh, everyone has done such a great job. It was a pleasure working with you. All of these things is good for everyone, and it creates more strategy in your communication. When you are a manager, take ownership also on errors that have been made by your team member. Try not to make people feel bad about their error in front of everyone, but really try to take the blame when you are the manager. But when you are not the manager, own your mistakes, as Kamini was presenting. Well, at some point, you may need to apologize. Don't blame it on someone else. You did a mistake, you forgot something. I'm sorry, and propose an action plan to fix the issue in the short term, but also in the long term. Okay, and keep your like a little note for yourself, or like always double checking something or always avoiding something. There are some other aspects of being a strategical communicator. Don't speak for the sake of communicating or just of the sake of being right, as Kamini was saying. Just really look for feedback as well. Ask for feedback about your communication. It's not something that we all do. It's not something that we all want to be doing, but be open to that feedback and say thank you when you get a little bit of it. Communicate also to motivate people. You can always motivate people, even if it's just to ask for a report. You know someone is busy, you can emphasize that and show some kind of empathy and motivate the person. Try to really energize people, inspire improvement through work practice, through human relationships, and really empower your colleagues, your coworker, even your manager. You can be communicating in a strategic manner with anyone, upward or downward in a way, and use your voice for positive change. Be a leader for meaningful initiative. And here I really want to emphasize that you don't need to be a manager to be a leader for meaningful initiative with your communication. You know, you can be a strategic communicator and you are maybe a one-person team and you are interacting, and anybody you are interacting with, you try to use your voice and your communication for positive improvement and positive change. You don't need to be a manager for that. You can do that at any time with anyone. And as you can tell from that whole presentation, communication and impactful communication requires effort. Excellent communicators, they were not born like that. They are made. They put some effort, they improve, they refine their technique, they adapt to whoever is around, and to however the communication goes, they are adapting. And so I see that the chat box is now filling up. And I want to complete that. And so I'm sorry, Kamini, because I came to that point yesterday night, because I feel like a lot of presentation, always we need to kind of get the juice out of it with that, this kind of like easy to remember equation or something. So this is what I came up with, and it's all on me.
That's okay. I love it.
So I will show you right now. This is EMC2. So the famous thank you, Einstein, for that. So it came up to me that, you know, we have been talking a lot to you about bring energy and be considerate of the energy of the people you're communicating with and the energy of the message. Energy, the M is for motivation. Keep in mind a common objective. What do you want people to feel about your communication, how you behave with them? Enhance the connection between the people. Keep yourself connected with the people you're communicating with. And the last C is for clarity. You know, you want to make sure that things are clear, because otherwise the message will get lost. And I think this kind of summarize the real important aspect of communication that you can kind of like easily go back to when you are working on your email or you're interacting with your toddler, because communication goes beyond just work. And that's all I wanted to say. Kamini, do you want to add something before we finish on the last poll?
Well, I really appreciate the time, and this I like, and you can see words from other acronyms that we picked up: connection, clarity, honesty, integrity. These are all little things that you as a professional person can implement professionally in your communication and personally, because it will get you ahead of what you need to accomplish in life. And I've used these things on a daily basis with myself, my family, and as 18-year-old. So when it works on an 18-year-old, a teenager, I keep it.
Or on a toddler and connection.
Or a toddler, yes.
Or the toddler, or significant others. So let's go with the last poll, guys. Yes. So now you know the drill. You are going to answer randomly the first 4th poll, and we finish with the 5th poll. That is really, how did we do today with our communication? Because, you know, we talked about communication. How did we do? Do you feel like it was not very effective, kind of effective? So remember, you need to select and answer randomly to all of the first question, and then select really something meaningful for the last poll. Were we not very effective? I hope we're not in that case. Kind of effective, but a lot of missing. Pretty good, pretty effective and interactive, or you learn a lot. So tell us what you think about our communication with you today. And then once most of you have answered, we will close the poll. And I totally agree that we are past the time. I can still stick around. And let's see the chat box.
I like some questions.
Yes. All right.
There are some questions there. I've been watching them. If you'd like for me to summarize them.
Yes. So I'm ending the poll. Hold on. Let me just share the results of the poll. Oh, okay. Let me share the results. So let's look at the last poll. So Kamini, 75% of the people felt like it was very effective and interactive. And a lot of people, 34% say that they learn a lot. So, okay, so I think it's a good sense of what people felt. So please, Jennifer, let us know what are the questions, because I may have missed some.
Okay, well, the chat box was filling up, so I wanted to make sure that I captured them. We had a question from David asking if it's rude to leave your camera off during a team meeting.
I'll take that one.
Yeah, I'll put my.
I feel if you're in a virtual meeting and it's, you know, if you're going to put your camera off, you need to let people know. You need to let the host know why, the reason for it. Mm-hmm. It's important. That's my take on it. And I've conducted many of these virtual meetings over the past month or 3 months or so, and I always let them know I am going to put my mic off or my camera off, just to have an understanding what's happening.
Yeah. On my side, I feel like I would say, like, when you are in a meeting with like 200 people, it doesn't really matter if you're on camera or not. But when you're in a small setting, and for me, a small setting is like below 40 people, I would be like, if everybody's on camera, you'd better be on camera. I think the message you're sending by just switching it off is not a good one. I think it's for me. I mean, I'm teaching a lot of time. I feel like when people are not on camera, for me, it means already people are not interested. They may not be paying attention, especially when, let's say, you're not on camera, you're not using the chat box to kind of say that you're here, you're not answering the poll. It feels like, what are you doing? So how does that, how are the people around feeling, considering you're not present? So I think it really doesn't send the right message. I understand that sometimes, you know, let's say your toddler is around, or you have the plumber that is here, and unfortunately he's going to be in the background. Well, just let people know. I think this is part of the empathy that Kamini was mentioning earlier. It's like people know that everybody's home, and that it's okay if the dog is passing behind, or if the toddler is coming and say, hey, mommy, blah, blah, blah. I think it's okay. But I feel like putting yourself on no camera, I wouldn't encourage that.
Okay, we have a question, a protocol question here, mm-hmm. about from Mary, saying that she has faculty who ask her to call them by their first name, and she's always been taught to use the title doctor when talking to them. Is it rude not to use their first name if they've asked you to use it?
My take on this is, if you should always start out using a professional greeting, and if the person approached you and said, you know, I feel more comfortable using my first name, then that person is communicating to you what his or her preference is. So therefore, you should follow that. But when you're doing a formal written communication, or in a formal meeting, you should use the proper you know, doctor or sir, or however you greet someone. But I feel like if someone asks you to do you know, to do certain things or address them in a certain way, you should respect that, because that's what that person is comfortable with. Unless you're in a big meeting and you're presenting to upper level boss, then the tone is, and that's tone and you know, clarity, again, connection, and how you're interacting with that person.
Okay. And would you recommend that organizations implement a uniform virtual Zoom background? Is that professional?
I don't think it's something that should be imposed by the institution. I mean, if they want to, I think it's part of also something that is the question is a little bit bigger than about virtual communication, because it's also about the institution. At first, we started being in a pandemic, working from home, as like it's going to be a temporary situation, and now it becomes like a long-term situation. So institution and everybody has to adapt and make some new rules. So if this institution wants to have like a virtual background that works for everyone, why not? I don't know. What do you think, Kamini? Do you feel it's really? I mean,
I think at the very beginning there was no issues, but in my you know, the way I conduct business is the fact that you should, if this continue in a long time, and you should have a professional scene in the back. You can't have all kinds of mad photos and things like that. So I think at this stage of how we are conducting business, it's not a hard decision to make. But if this goes on like a year, 2 years from now, I think companies will go back and say, okay, here's the standard protocol, not to be distracting with the artwork or something like that behind you.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely true. And I think there's also a question from Sarah Roux. I don't know if she's still here. She's asking about how do you respond to an email when a person assigns emotions to you via emails and you are actually not really feeling emotional at all, because for you it's all about work and business and not emotional. So this is a very delicate question, I guess. Here, Sarah, thank you for bringing it up. I feel like, you know, if you do not feel like showing empathy to someone or feeling emotional to someone, and you are in a situation, let's say, of a manager where you feel like you have to, I would say, you know, try to reach out, maybe to some support, maybe from HR, or there's a lot of, I think, approach that could be found. I think that more and more institutions have employee assistance program that can actually support people. And if you feel like you're not in a position where you can address the emotional aspect of a person, that maybe they're going through burnout or something, and you feel like, oh, I don't know how to do that. Well, you're not, in a way, like you can just address, I understand the situation. I understand you feeling that. I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to redirect you to someone who can provide you the support you need and you deserve, because I don't feel like I am in a position where I can provide it to you. And I think maybe you can tailor the message in a very empathic way, but with still making it clear that you cannot address really that situation. What do you think, Kamini?
You make very good point there, because not all of us have the knowledge to deal with an emotional situation.
Yeah.
So that, you know, acknowledging, telling them, I hear you, I see you, and I know I'm trying to understand your feeling, but I don't have the skill set to address that. I'm going to seek some help for you. Really goes a big way. However, also on the flip side, if someone is sending you an emotional driven email relating to work, and continuously do this for lack of deliverable, then that's a different conversation that needs to happen. And sometimes if you take the person, have a, say, I read your email, I'm reading it in this tone. What do you mean by it? Maybe that person has a little bit of an underlying issue with you. So you always have to ask yourself, what am I doing to drive this emotion into this conversation? And if you don't ask yourself that, and you say it's someone else, then you have a rude awakening when things are not moving forward.
Yes.
Well, I
Definitely.
believe we're going to have to conclude at
Yeah.
this point. I really appreciate you staying on a little bit of extra time, and along with the 180 or so people that are also here staying on for this extra time. This was a riveting presentation. I don't think I'm beyond the age of 65, and I continue to learn to be a better communicator, and I continue to see that that's something I need to continue to learn. So
I think it's like an endless project of like it's an endless learning process. It's a dynamic one, and I feel it's also the beauty and the daunting aspect of it. It's just like it's never ending, really, and it changes so much between the context and the people you're reaching out and the message. So it's but I think there's a lot of way specifically for virtual communication, a lot of touching points that you can have a little bit more control over and feel more empowered. And I think it's really what we were trying to share with you guys this morning. It was a great pleasure to present at the FRAC meeting. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for organizing it. Thank you very much, Kamini. I don't see you, but I'm sure you're around. Yeah,
I am still here.
You switch on the screen. So it was a pleasure preparing this presentation with you and to present it with everyone. So I hope everyone had a good time, and I guess we have to go.
Thank you all. Have a great one and be safe.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And the other sessions for today are on the screen, so I hope everyone will come back for the additional sessions. Thank you again.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Have a great one.
Yeah, have a good day.